Good evening and welcome to Burlington and Beyond. My name is Adam Sinesi, and for the next hour with me I will have my partner in crime here, Larry Way.
Thank you. Good evening. Good evening, everyone.
And to my other side, we have our guest for the next hour, Ms. Myrna Saltsman from Precinct 2 Town Meeting. We're going to talk a little bit about town politics tonight. Thanks for joining us, Myrna.
You're very welcome. Thank you for inviting me. And hello to everybody.
So how long have you been serving on town meeting for?
I've been a town meeting member for 6 years. And in that wonderful amount of time, I've served under 4 different town moderators.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Not a lot of time, not a lot of turnover at that position, so that's...
There was a lot of turnover
right.
in the past
Traditionally,
6
there hasn't
years.
been.
That's right.
So the fact that you've
That's
done
right.
that,
So it's an honor and a privilege to serve the people in Precinct 2.
that's great.
Yeah.
Now, what motivated you to get involved when you first decided that you were going to run for town meeting?
What motivated me was I was already working in many different committees in town. I was on the program committee at the library. I was on the Council on Aging, or had been on the Council on Aging. I participate in recreation programs, and I had brought, think Myrna, think. Oh, I'm blank for the moment. It'll come to me in a
Just relax,
second.
it'll come back to you.
I know. The intergenerational school program. Come on. Bridges, thank you.
Okay.
Bridges into the schools. So I had been into the schools working with the 4th grade teachers to initiate that. And so because of those connections, and I realized that Precinct 2 did not have a full slate of representatives, I ran as a write-in candidate.
No kidding.
Yes.
And you were able to win as a write-in. I believe you need 10 people.
Well, there were 87 units in my condo complex, so I knocked on every door and I let them know. I gave them a little sticker with my name and address, and when the April election came, they plugged me in, and so I was elected to Precinct 2.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's a good story.
Yeah.
So that's the secret then. Live in a condominium and just knock on your neighbors' doors.
It helps.
Get to know them.
But there's a lot more condominiums in town, so there's a lot more doors everyone should be knocking on.
And so you've enjoyed town meeting, participating. And you also have participated in the town in many of these committees. So it looks like you're very well plugged in. And even I can't be on a committee without seeing Myrna Saltsman there also. So that's great. It's great that you're so involved and interested in the town. What would you say, Myrna, would be the town's biggest need?
In my opinion, it's educating the population, you people. Am I pointing to all of you out there? I don't know how you see me.
I think I'll point to this here.
Oh, thank you. To know, to know more about town meeting, how it works, and who your town meeting members are. They're representing you. They're the Congress in Washington that's right here in Burlington. And I bet you most of you don't know who we are. And so that's what I would like to see, more education about the town meeting members, from them promoting themselves as well as the townspeople getting to know them, and more about how town meeting works.
So as you had alluded to, the town meeting, which all 3 of us are members.
Yeah,
That's true.
Town meeting is the legislative body of the town's politics.
correct.
So what types of things do we vote on at town meeting? What do we talk about? What do we discuss? What do we approve?
We get a warrant that lists all these articles, and mostly it's budgetary things, it's zoning, and other matters that might come from the state, such as the marijuana discussion of recent meeting. So that's
a
really,
zoning issue.
yes.
Again, it alludes
Yes,
back to
you're
everything.
right, it
Everything
is.
most of what we do is zoning and budgetary approval.
correct. Okay.
Now, what do you say to the people who say, well, I've got a job, I've got a family, I have all these other responsibilities. How would I possibly have time for the town? What would you say to them?
I'd say that you make time. You may, if you care enough about how your money is being spent, and we are spending it,
No, that's a good point.
you make time. A busy person can always find time to do a little bit more. And then town meeting doesn't meet that often. I mean,
Town meeting meets
3 times a year. Maybe 2 nights each time, period.
Yep.
So that's 6 nights out of 365? I mean, really.
But town meeting, one thing about town meeting is that it's what you decide to make of it, because going to town meeting the 3 times a year that we have it, there's more to town meeting
Yes,
than that.
I
For example, I
agree.
know Larry here is on Ways and Means, and that's a big time commitment. Both of us, we serve on both Capital Budget and Rules Committee. Less of a time commitment, but still a time commitment. Not a time commitment that we need to commit to be town meeting members, but something that we choose to commit to, I guess, maybe be more active town meeting members and have a more active role in what
Yes.
happens on town meeting.
We all have good minds, good potential, and we want to give to the town. In essence, that's what you're doing, serving. Larry and I just finished up on the, let me get it right, Zoning Bylaw Review Study Committee.
That's right.
Blah,
That's
blah,
good.
you know, it's a mouthful. But again, it was a good group of people that want to work to improve the town. There's always room for improvement. I don't care what it is. You can always
Absolutely.
make it better.
And you know, Myrna, on that committee, we had such an easy question. Should town meeting review its zoning bylaws, which had been initiated back in the 70s? That was our initial pass, and we never took it upon ourselves to ever study those zoning bylaws. And in the meantime, I'm watching developers come in, taking advantage of town meeting, because town meeting members don't even know what the zoning bylaws are. To some extent, you need a legal background, a real estate background to understand a lot of it. But I think for sure we need to start being knowledgeable about what our own zoning bylaws are, so that we can at least be on a little bit more of a level footing when developers come in and want to do something that they're either not supposed to do, but they know the laws better and how to get around them better. That's my observation. But more importantly, it's our responsibility as town meeting members to review all of our bylaws. And we have not yet undertaken a review of the zoning bylaws.
And that's a valid point, and it's shown every day by the McMansionization of what's happening in Burlington to the town.
In the
building,
over-commercialization, you can look at the traffic, you can see something very different happening to the town that what I think would be in our own, all of our best, joint best interest.
The green is leaving, the grass is disappearing, and we're getting gray. Concrete, not out here. No
And
offense.
I think,
No.
yeah, those of us that have it. But I think that's one of the fault lines within town meeting. There's constantly discussion over what direction the town's going in as far as development, where the development should be happening, if the development should be happening, if we should be granting more liquor licenses, if we should be bringing additional. These are all things that we discuss on a
No.
every time at town meeting. They always come back, and these are the things that I feel like even the people that aren't necessarily involved in town meeting, when we talk to our neighbors around town, traffic is something everybody's talking about, development.
So traffic, it's a pet peeve of mine. Even coming into BCAT tonight to drive into the high school, every school in this town has a traffic pattern that it's like the mouse in the cage, you know, not knowing where to run to find anything. When you go to planning board meetings, and I was there last week, when a developer comes in and has their traffic engineer say, you know, there'll be very little traffic from this 7-story office building, where is our defense? Where is our town traffic person to say, no, even though it may come out here, it's going to affect A, B, C, and D down the road. We don't have anyone that protects us. The town, as far as I'm concerned, needs its own traffic engineer. We have a safety engineer in the police department. That's all well and good. But I'm talking about someone, you know, that's trained in this regard, that can see the effects of what happens every time we build something new.
Well, I do know that the planning board has their professional staff,
I know that.
but
Yes,
yeah, they're more. I would assume that they're more. They come from a regional planning background, I would assume, and that they carry out the policy as set forth by the planning board.
Yes.
But yes, there probably isn't anyone that's going in there as the developers are coming in and making their presentations. I don't know what sort of safeguards are in place. There may be safeguards, but I'm not aware of them.
Well,
that are there to articulate. I guess it's really up to the planning board to interpret the town's bylaws as best they can, and that's ultimately the should be the arbiter in whether a development should be able to move forward in its planning stage to fruition, to being built.
And I agree, but I'm talking about the repercussions from that exit, from that building, from that store, from that whatever. What's happening in the rest of the town because we've increased the
Right, what sort of
cost.
frequency are we doing
Yeah,
these traffic
yeah.
studies to be able to rebut whatever the developers are telling us when
That's
they come in and
correct.
present?
That's what I'm talking about. You know, we see it out on 128. I mean, I don't know. Did either of you go when they had the hearing on the transportation out there about the intersection of 128 and Route 3?
I did go to that.
Right.
I thought I had many more ideas than what they presented, but
Well, they came up with some very expensive proposals with flyovers and loop-the-loops, and what have you, that if they just moved that fourth lane barrier in one lane between both sides of Route 3, there'd be a double lane on either side to ease the traffic. You don't have to be a civil engineer to see that, but, I wonder when the regional people come in whether they really know what's happening here in Burlington, okay?
I wonder.
But I don't want to get off track, okay?
So,
well, let's turn that into why should somebody want to run for town meeting? I mean, if somebody's tired of traffic, would town meeting be a first thought to join, to try to do something, to try to mitigate, alleviate, change the course of the action that the town is on?
It would be a good place to begin because they would see how the town works, what you have to come up with to make a change. It's part of the education process that I'm inferring that we all need to know more about. For people who sit and watch when it's on cable, that's wonderful. But there's nothing like being there, and seeing everything that's going on around you. We just need more education. It's a word.
How do we get that? How do we educate people as to what their town meeting is doing for them or to them? And how do we generate more interest in being more involved in some of these decisions for the town?
It's a wonderful question. One of my proposals to rules and regulations is that
What's rules and regulations are you talking about?
That's a committee. It's a
Go ahead.
committee that's appointed by the town moderator to help make sure that town meeting is running optimally, okay? So the town meeting members in each precinct, and I'm in precinct 2, I don't think know one another. There are 18, we're talking about
Yep.
the makeup, the
so
composition.
how many town meeting members are in each precinct?
18.
Okay.
And 6 are elected each year for a 3-year term, okay?
Yes.
And we have 7 precincts, so that multiplies out to 126 town meeting members, okay? Do you know, what precinct are you in, Larry?
I'm in precinct 5.
And you, Adam?
I'm in precinct 1.
Okay. Do you know the other 17 members of your precinct?
I know several of them personally. I know some of them just as names on I recognize the names, but I don't know them.
I'd say the same thing. I recognize the names. I could spout off probably a dozen. There are some that are new that I've just gotten to know a little bit. But again, not everyone wants to speak up at their first town meetings, which is understandable.
No. I didn't mean that. I think that the precinct should gather together in a social gathering just to say, hi, I'm Adam from precinct 1, and what street do you live on, and blah, blah, blah. And then as time goes on, find out what issues really affect that precinct or overlap into the next one. But it's a matter of we don't even know one another. We really don't. Okay.
You know what, I wish there was some money available to communicate directly with the town precinct that you're in. Communicate to people what we did at town meeting, what we each believe was important, and that could be a town precinct function. Let's put together a letter, let's discuss the pros and cons of the major issues, and update everybody. And if they want to give their opinion, here's the way to do so.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, the more communication, the more transparency, the more you're getting the information out there.
But we'd have to do
Always
something
better.
probably through the Rules Committee.
I don't know. I mean, could a precinct set up their own group? Well, I don't know.
I remember there was
maybe a budget.
at one point, this is similar to the road that you're going down. At one point, they did a social for all the various town meeting
Yes,
members
correct.
at the
Grandview.
tavern,
Yeah.
at Grandview Tavern. And it was sort of everybody brings an appetizer, and it was a meet and greet. And, you know, I walked around and I met a lot of people that I had seen before, or
saw stand up at town meeting,
right,
and
or
now
I
you got a
heard
chance to
their
talk to
name,
them.
but I didn't know who they were, and I had the chance to break bread over some hummus and a shrimp cocktail with some of our fellow town meeting members.
Well, that's a wonderful beginning, but that happened, what, once?
It was a while ago, and yeah, we should do something like that
That's
again.
When we sit at town meeting in the high school auditorium, it's part of this blessed complex, I don't know who the people are unless they get up to speak, right? I mean, we now get name tags when you go in, which is wonderful, but when the vast majority of people are sitting there, you don't know who they are. You have no idea. I mean, I'm
Right.
talking personally. Maybe you learn the names of the people in the dog and pony show who like to get up and talk all the time on issues. But seriously, those are the ones you do know.
Yeah.
And the vast majority, you have no idea who they are.
So for our viewers at home,
Yes.
how do they learn who their town meeting representative is?
I'm glad you asked. One way is to look on the website for the town of Burlington.
Burlington.org.
It will list every town meeting member, their address, when they were first elected. All I see is my hand.
Got to look at wherever the red light
Okay,
is.
I'm sorry. If you look on the town
I
website.
see more of you now.
Okay. The town meeting members, it will list each person's name, address, telephone number, email address, when they were first elected, and how long they've been serving. That's how I made my little stick notations.
Now, do you ever have constituents reach out to you? Has anyone ever
Yes.
emailed you? Okay.
Yes, I had a person, a woman, who was a town resident, born here, and she needed to find affordable housing.
Oh, wow.
And so that started me down that track. It's very interesting what I learned and what we don't know about affordable housing.
No kidding.
The end result was the person, because everything's a wait list. I mean, you fill out this multiple form for the town administrator's office. You give your life away, and then you're categorized. That's the first step. And then we went to look at the affordable housing units in town. They'll show you a model room or what have you, an apartment. And so you ask the manager of that building, well, how many people are on the waiting list? Oh, we're not able to tell you that. Well, how long is the wait? Well, it depends. I mean, you couldn't get any information, okay? It was very frustrating. The end result was this person had to move out of town,
Oh, wow.
okay? So yeah, I did get involved, and I didn't like what I learned, but I haven't been able to change that. One person can make a start, but you're really better off with numbers, with a group, with strength.
I helped somebody from my church sign up for affordable housing, and it was a 5-year wait.
Okay. Here in Burlington.
Applying through Burlington,
Yeah.
and I think they were going to have to be considered locally, several surrounding towns,
Right, that is
for
true.
that 5-year wait.
Right. It's very exasperating. Okay.
But Adam, you had an interesting question. Have you been contacted by people in the town?
Yeah, not with tremendous frequency, but when there's every now and then there'll be certain votes that come before us that tend to get people hot under the collar, or people feel passionately about. One that I can think of was the vote on the landlocked forest to zone that as open space, or protected space, conservation area. I believe we zoned it as.
I think open space.
It was open space. It was earlier in the year, but
I
yeah,
would
I
have
think it
favored
was
conservation, because that means you could never build on it
right.
again,
Correct. It was open space that we zoned it as, and I'll tell you, I probably got 6 or 7 emails soliciting me to vote in favor of making it open space. I had already, in general, and I actually like this. whenever I've received an email from a constituent or a phone call from a constituent urging me to vote one way on an issue, I had either already been leaning that way or already had made up my mind that I was going to vote that way. So every time someone's reached out to me, I've actually probably made them happy, and not because I tried to go out of my way to placate one person, or it was just that I feel I arrived in the place that this is where the community has arrived at, and I represent this precinct. And
Well, that's wonderful that they know how to reach you, because that's an issue that, you know, every spring when we have our town elections and the 6 candidates for your precinct are in the paper, that's about the only time you ever see their name out there and on the ballot when you go to vote, okay? Otherwise, we're like mysterious, so to speak.
I mean, one of the things that I've tried to mark my candidacy and my tenure on is pushing for transparency and
Absolutely.
everything that we
I
touch
agree.
on town meeting. But I've tried to go out of my way to make myself available and encourage people that reach out. If you need something, call me.
Good for
Maybe
you.
I can't help you, but I can at least tell you what falls under the umbrella of things that I can do, or I can point you in the direction of, you know, who to talk to help with the problem. I know that there was, I had one constituent at one point. This was a family that lived outside of a pumping station that was about to, the pumping station was in disrepair, and it was making a lot of noise, and it was actually on the docket for town meeting, was on the warrant that they were going to be repairing that pumping station. So I made sure that the constituent was versed in the process. Yeah. So
you
the issue
educated
that you're dealing with, this is something that the town is aware of. This is something that is on the agenda to be discussed. You're welcome to come. You can talk if you want, because they allow citizens are allowed to come and talk at town
That's
meeting.
an important point that should be better promoted, that anyone can come to town meeting, you know, and speak on an issue. They cannot vote on it unless they're an elected town meeting member, but they can come certainly for whatever's of interest to them.
Yeah.
And you know, I think it would be probably even more advantageous if we publicized all of these subcommittees where all of these bills are put together, everything from a new fire station to zoning issues to marijuana, to what new things the town should buy for itself. All of those typically come out of a subcommittee. Now, even if they first attend Ways and Means, because everything going before Ways and Means then goes before the town meeting. So that would be a good place to get your voice heard and listened to.
To come to these, yeah, we're all
Ways and Means,
publicized.
Bylaw
Yeah.
Committee, Zoning Bylaw Review Committee, hopefully that'll be passed and this time.
It will be.
Bylaw Review Committee. So all of these smaller little committees, even there was a fire station committee, am I right?
Yeah. There
decide
is a
what to do?
subcommittee to help.
I'd love an
Facilitate
update. I'd love an update on that in a second or two, but just to be able to know that that exists and be able to show up and give your opinion or get updated, I think that should be better publicized.
I agree. I mean, those are public
I'm just not
notices.
sure how to.
There's 48 hours they have to post any meeting, so it's there if you look at the door to
That's a
town
law.
hall.
That's a
no,
law.
I know that.
Yep.
But I mean, can it be in the paper? At least I don't find the Burlington Union as effective as it used to be. That's my personal opinion.
Is there
And I don't
anything
know where
left
else.
that is effective?
I don't
Facebook,
know.
Twitter,
I mean,
anything?
I don't do Facebook.
Well, you know, I do think that, so Myrna has said that the Burlington Union hasn't been as effective as you feel it might have been at one time.
Yes.
And I think that's a function of, you know, print journalism
Yes.
is something that's sort of going away. Now the Boston Globe and the Boston Herald, those are still regional newspapers that carry with them a larger readership. But a smaller community like Burlington, does it have enough of a built-in audience to that will continue to read a local paper like that? And I don't know if there is enough of an audience at this point to sustain something like that, because everything's going online.
No, the paper every week, the library will put out what's happening there, recreation will put out what's happening. I mean, certain departments get their information out into the newspaper. But those are major departments. You're talking about some of the committees that we sit on, you know, and letting people come
know
to
they
that.
exist, and
So we know in advance when they're going to happen. We always plan for our next meeting at the one we're attending. It's a matter of then someone somehow getting that out in print, because the more you get the information out, the better the chances are that people will attend.
Well, do you know, the path that I was going down is as print journalism seems to go away and the lead times on the
Yes.
Burlington Union is a weekly paper. So to get something in for the Thursday edition, it needs to be in their hands on Monday.
Right.
But everything's going online now. And in
I know
BCAT,
that,
in BCAT, do you subscribe to the BCAT B News?
No.
You've
Learn
heard me
tonight.
say this before.
I know
Have
that.
you heard me talk about
yes,
this before?
I have. I'm not a computer addict.
You don't need to be a computer whiz.
I
but
said
I know.
addict.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
not a whiz either. But
All
that's
right.
irrelevant.
But I know you check your email because we
Yeah,
emailed
that-
back and
that's
forth
right,
before
yeah.
you came
Well,
on the
that's-
show. They send you an email once a day, and there's a lot of
Really?
yeah, it's a lot of happenings within the community. It's meetings that took place in the community. The key takeaways from town meeting, from school committee, from the selectmen, and I think because it's every day, I think it's more timely
Yes,
than say a
absolutely.
print newspaper that has a week lead time.
I would agree. Does it cover the subcommittees that Larry's referring?
It would cover. I imagine that in the instance of a major vote or something that was a hot button issue, it would cover Ways and Means. And Rich Hosford, who is the lead news person, I think he would be receptive to hearing recommendations or ideas of things that if you know something's going to happen in a meeting or if you know there's an important issue. I think he would be receptive to an email letting them know that there might be some newsworthiness to what's being covered in tonight's Ways and Means meeting or capital budget
I
meeting.
think that's a good idea that we could actually start doing. The chairman of the committee, if they could put out a little press release as to what that committee just decided, if there's going to be any future hearing on it, where and when, I think that could be an effective letter.
Well, I'll
to
tell
the-
you a
to the
funny
town.
story. I'll tell you a funny story.
There you
So-
go.
So we could have done that with the zoning bylaw review committee.
Yes.
We could have welcomed something like that from the fire station 2 department to committee. A letter from the chair saying what they just voted on. What have they decided yet? When's it going to start?
When's their next meeting?
And that's,
Public
what
input.
something, I think someone like Rich or a reporter would be apt to report on anything newsworthy that comes out of these meetings. But if the participants in the meetings are willing to give the press a heads up, it always makes the press's job easier.
Yeah.
Obviously there's mostly one person that covers the news for B News or for the daily blasts that I get in the email, and they do a show once a week too, by the way. But
What time?
That's
is
on
this?
Friday nights, right?
it's on Friday nights at I believe 10 o'clock.
I've enjoyed that. That's
It is.
good.
I enjoy it
It's
myself too.
opposite Bill Maher.
Well, that's what DVR is for.
I don't DVR, so
All
you have to
right.
know what you're dealing with. I still drive a stick shift, all right?
Do you have a VHS? You could tape Bill Maher on VHS.
It's repeated. I can catch Bill
Well,
Maher.
there you go. That's what
I
on
know the
demand. You have on
answers. I know
demand.
the answers. Okay.
But so one example on how I think we could use the media better is I had the privilege of being appointed to the committee that town meeting had put together with regard to the water issue.
Oh,
So right now we're looking into the issue. There's many layers to the
Yes.
issue. There are a couple of wells that are shut down on account of contamination. That the water from those wells is not being fed into the town's water supply, so the water is safe to drink. I want to be clear on that. But
I refill.
That's Fiji water,
and
right?
but beyond that, one of the things, it's not just the issue of the water, but it's the issue of communicating with people, because as that committee was being assembled, there was a little bit of a scare in town, and a lot of people showed up to one of our meetings saying, well, is the water safe to drink? Is the
Really?
water safe to drink?
I'm sorry they were scared, but
And-
that's
and we-
but it was effective.
But
then.
it's an issue of communicating. How do we communicate to people that, one, that the water is safe to drink, that we're crafting a plan moving forward? A lot of people showed up to a meeting that we had, the water committee, and they came there with a lot of frustration, and they came there and they approached us on the committee, as it, well, why haven't you gentlemen done anything yet? And the answer was, well, we were just appointed, that we really had no authority to do anything up until this point. But I think we could really use, one of the things that I've spoken about on the committee, I said we really need to use the tools at our disposal. We need to leverage BCAT and the soapbox that will give us to communicate with the public and possibly hold public forums on the issue as we move down the line. We want to use the Facebook Residents Network, which has become popular. I know you're not an internet addict, so maybe you're not on there.
I'm on it, but I don't respond.
Okay.
I am on it. But I said to some of my friends when I was telling them I was going to be here tonight, I said, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I said, too bad it's not a call-in show, though. Then you could call in and ask questions. Have you ever thought about doing that?
We have thought about doing that. I worry about hecklers. No, I'm kidding.
I think you could stand up to them.
I think I could too.
Yeah.
So, Myrna, how long have you lived in Burlington for?
I've lived here 22 years.
Okay.
And as you asked earlier, why did I come to Burlington?
What brought you here?
The condo. I had looked at every condo in greater, I lived in Wayland for 23 years before coming here. So I looked at anything and everything that would meet my needs. And I found a great condo. It's still a great condo. And that was how I came to Burlington. Didn't know anybody here.
Okay.
So,
Did you look for a community to live in at that time?
No, it was
Did
just
you
a
study
condo.
up about?
After
So the
living,
condo was just affordable, what you were looking for?
absolutely.
Of all the towns surrounding
Yes, but
Boston, probably Framingham, north to
I
south?
didn't even know at that point it had one of the lowest residential tax rates of many communities. But that changed a few years later with a big 22% jump in our real estate taxes with no explanation that pleased me from the town. But anyway, the reason that I was so happy to move here is because when I moved into Wayland, it was my 8th home in 12 years. I had moved a lot. So, long time there, involved in the town of Wayland, long time here, involved in the town of Burlington.
No. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Wayland has an open town meeting. It was entirely different than the precinct here. So this was a whole new learning experience.
So you did town meeting when you lived in Wayland?
Oh, yes, I did. Yes, of course.
Okay.
I belonged to a group that was called WAG, Wayland Action Group, because it's like it follows me, because we were a small group that, wanted things different in Wayland, right?
Okay.
There's always room for improvement.
I agree.
That's my byline. So, yeah, I was involved politically there, yes.
Good for you.
I'd run for office twice for recreation. Anyone in my exercise class out there knows I'm big on exercise. And lost, and that was a good learning experience. When you lose the first time, whoever's watching, run again.
Okay.
Up here.
Run again. And even if you don't make it, if you feel strongly about it, you got to repeat it.
So did you ran a second time?
And I lost the second time.
Okay, all
And
right.
that was all right. But while I was in recreation, I started bay soccer for girls.
Okay.
I rejuvenated the women's softball league. I brought girls softball into the high school. I was active in the Wayland High School Parents organization, which I renamed because it used to be called Mothers Council.
Okay.
So I've always been active. I mean, this is my modus operandi.
If you couldn't win rec department with that resume, who was able to best you?
Well, there's always those people.
You don't have to mention names.
No, I kind of remember the names at this point in time. That's
So we're
not
safe.
the issue. Huh?
So we're safe.
Yeah, you're safe. You're absolutely safe. No, this was way back. But if you feel strongly about something, even running for a town meeting member, if you don't make it, run again. And we've had people who've done that,
Yeah.
right? Okay. Which I'd like to get back to something about town meeting,
Absolutely.
if I can just jump ship.
Could I just ask one more side
Sure.
question? Tell me about that 22% increase. Why did that happen?
Were you living here when it happened?
I came here in 2001.
I don't remember the year it happened. I mean, we really had the lowest rate around, and then the next year the real estate taxes jumped, and I never read or got us.
Do we know
Yes.
why?
Well, there was an explanation put out by the town, but I never fully understood it. I have it in print somewhere. I saved the newspaper article. I really did. Yeah. Okay?
Amazing.
Some of these people in town meeting have been here a long, long time, could perhaps
Refresh
explain
us.
it to you. Yeah.
I'll have to look into that because
Yeah.
it seems like there'd be a little bit of a revolt. I would hope within town meeting if they had to approve that.
I wasn't active then.
I would have
I
hoped in
wasn't-
Ways and Means they would
Yeah.
have pushed back.
I can't answer you.
There must have been some major event that happened.
Yeah.
So I'll
Maybe
have
we
to,
weren't
that's worth
funding
looking
certain
into it.
things enough. I don't know.
Or we weren't paying attention, right?
Yeah. Okay. But anyway, but Burlington is a great town, and I got to tell you, when I started going to town meetings 6 years ago, and I was quiet, if you can believe it, when I would hear the different town meeting members get up in response to an article, I was always, and still am, so impressed with their knowledge and wisdom. We really have a wonderful group of people who are serving us.
Absolutely.
I mean that in all sincerity, and the town should be happy for those they've elected. They just should know more about us and you know, what's happening in town meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
The truth is, and as was the impetus for us doing this show, is that if you think about it, the town government, every year about 2,000 people, maybe 2,500 people vote in those elections. And ultimately, 2,500 people decide how the town is run.
Yes, that's true. I mean, if we get 15% of the voting, the registered voters at a town election, we're lucky.
Right. I mean,
Okay.
it's worked out well for us because we have a seat at the table, but we want to see more people have a greater say because we'd probably create a better product if we heard from more people.
Not we probably, we
would.
do.
We would.
We do, okay?
Yeah.
I remember writing a letter to the editor a couple of years ago when the huge turnout for our national president election, we get, you know, they're out the door lined up. Well, what's closer, Washington, D.C. or Burlington, right here? And yet they'll vote for what's happening there and not come out for what they're paying for under their noses here.
So what we need is a good town crisis to get people out and involved.
That does work, believe me. When I lived in Wayland,
Hopefully
they
it'll
had
be
a
a good
crisis
crisis, but
that they had to get rid of school teachers. You know, they have tenure, it's very hard. Well, the only way they could figure out how to do that was to rotate the elementary school principals, because the principals evaluate the teachers. That's how it was then. Oh my God, you couldn't get into the gym that night to hear the vote because that was a crisis.
No kidding.
They rotated the principals. Well, they knew they were diminishing school-age population. They had to close the school. You know, they had to not get rid of, that's not the right word,
reassign.
reassign. You know, some teachers had to go, but that was a crisis, okay? If that happened here, they'd be out the door at town meeting too.
So what finally motivated you to get involved with town meeting in 2006? Because you were 10 years into living in Burlington at that
No,
point.
not
A little
was
more
it
than 10
six?
years.
2012 when I was first elected.
Oh, wow. So you
Okay.
waited a while to get involved.
Well, I was working part-time, full-time, and I was taking care of my mother every weekend. She had dementia. I would bring her to my home in Burlington. So
Okay.
I really had
so you had a lot to do.
yeah. But politics has always been an interest, and so because of my involvements, as I cited before, on these different committees, I said, now's the time.
All
Now's
right.
the time. Okay. Why did you?
Because, again, I've always been interested in politics. I've always followed the news, followed current events, and I'm not one to just, you know, sit home and watch about it on TV
You don't
and
like
rant and
doing
rave. Right, exactly. So I need to get my hands dirty and get involved and feel like part of the process. So if something doesn't go the way that I liked, I can sit and say, hey, I tried my best. Or if
correct.
something does go the way I like, or I'm able to steer a discussion in a way that I think would work out better for the community, I can say, hey, I played a role in that.
And what role did you play? What provoked you?
If I could just respond to something first. You know who Rahm Emanuel is?
Yes, he
He
was
was
the chief of staff of President
Mayor of
Obama.
Chicago,
And
chief of
current-
staff
Now he's
of
the
President
okay.
Obama.
And
He was a congressman.
He had come out with a saying, never let a good crisis go to waste.
Yeah.
So again, hope we don't have to have one, hope we won't have one, hopefully we have people involved enough. I was just convinced to get involved. People say politics is dirty. and have other things to say about politicians, well, either you're going to be one or you're going to be ruled by one. Either you're going to be ruled by the type of people that you don't like, or you can become part of it and be what you help make the town what you want it to be. And plus, I felt there was just too much overdevelopment in the town. The Route 3A subcommittee, you know, the town has just exploded. It's a different town than what I moved to.
How long have you lived there?
2001.
You
So it was
did say
just
that.
before
Yeah.
the development, growth and crunch. And that's, I guess those two things are what made me get involved. And I initially just went as a write-in and only got my neighbors to vote for me. It wasn't quite enough, but it was enough to get some notice because I did attend the first town meeting. And then I was told that I'm not on town meeting anymore. And then Phil Gallagher, who was a town moderator, called me directly and said, would you like to be on Ways and Means? So even if you don't win, there's still other opportunities to serve on all these various committees which impact various aspects of the town, which give you say over what warrant articles, what the wording is, what we're going to be going for, what the goals are of the town. So you have tremendous say by being part of those subcommittees, and you don't need to be part of town meeting to be on these subcommittees.
That's true. That's a strong and valid point. You don't have to be a town meeting member to serve on some of these committees.
So the next year I did get on the ballot, what, 12 signatures? I think it was down to 10 now because of the new districting. So you only need 10 signatures. Maybe it might be 12,
I think
but
it's 10.
very minimal number of signatures just to get on the ballot. In a lot of precincts, if you're on the ballot, you're going to be on town meeting.
That's true.
So there's very low risk. You just mention it to your neighbors. Go hog wild if you want. Tell people what your views are. If there's a hot issue like water, okay, well, that might be something to tell people about. I enjoyed some of the campaigning around the neighborhood because now you find out what their needs are. Dear lady in her 70s wanted to know when we're going to get a swimming pool. She has to go to the swimming pool in Lexington. And said, well, I don't know, but I'll get back to you. And I think I saw in the capital budget plan it was scheduled for 2020.
A swimming pool?
Yeah.
Really?
I'd have to look at the.
I don't remember seeing
The new
one.
athletic
10-year capital
Part of
facility.
the master plan, maybe. It was suggested at that committee.
May have been the master plan.
Yeah.
And so all I could do is get back that that's when it's on the plan. So it wasn't great news, you know, back in, 5 years ago. But it was at least that's what the plan is. And if it ever comes up, I'll certainly look to push that. Push for
It's
that.
remiss that the town doesn't have a swimming facility of some kind.
I think we are going to get one by spring anyway. A huge health facility going up.
Oh, how can you miss it?
Yeah. I think that's going to have like 3 swimming pools.
Really?
Yeah.
Probably a pretty
But
hefty
you
price
have to be
tag.
a member to use it?
I think you do have to become a
Yeah,
member.
I think it's going to be.
But it will
pretty
be
expensive.
available at least for some people.
Well, it's a step forward. So I wanted to come back, if I may,
Sure.
to something you said about you elected by 12 votes as a write-in. When there's a vacancy in the precinct, for those of you who may not realize it, all the precinct town meeting members get together to pick someone to fill the vacancy. So you, the public, are being deprived of your right to vote and elect your
Right here.
town.
Got to look for the red light. It's a
Yeah,
moving
but
red light.
I
you
know that. Yeah, the town meeting member, you, the townsfolks, are being deprived of your right to elect who you want to represent you in your precinct because the precinct members get together, and I attended one of those, and it was like 5 of my other precinct members, the candidates who wanted to fill the vacancy, read off their credentials, and 5 of us voted in 2 people. How's that for a shocker? That, to me, doesn't sit right. We're not letting the public elect their duty.
This is important to know because if you keep your eye, if you're looking to become part of the town, you got to watch the votes through the website or just find out in the paper where was there no town meeting member that was elected. And if so, then that's an opening. Then they would need to call the town clerk and say that they are interested, and then they would be invited to be elected by the town meeting members from their precinct. So that's the way to do it. That's another very easy way to get onto town meeting
But I don't think
without
it's the
having
right
to
way.
campaign.
That's what I'm trying to say. I
It
know
may
that's
not
how
be, but it's another easy way to do that.
I think
too
if there's a
easy.
vacancy, though, if there's a vacancy, like like precinct 7, for example, sometimes precinct 7 can't fill out the roster. They can't find 6 people that want to run every 3 years. So going about it the way that they go about it versus not having anyone represent or have less representation for the precinct, as opposed to going about it via the caucus, the precinct caucus process. I mean, I guess it's the best worst option.
Well, they do work, all right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's even discussion about leaving the vacancy until the next town election and not having the precinct folks pick someone to fill the opening. But that emphasizes how people are not interested or haven't stepped forward to serve the town. Okay?
Why? But I still think it's another easy way to get on, and that's still good because it can get you involved if you're looking to be involved. And at the same time, you get a little bit of notoriety. I mean, your name is now being voted on, and so it's another way to hook into some of these other subcommittees and become knowledgeable. Now, ideally, yes, we'd have full elections, every precinct having at least 6 members running each and every time, at least 6. But, absent that, and I think there might be some reasons, but you give me your input too. When I was first on town meeting, there was a lot of loud, noisy discussions, people yelling back and forth at each other, and that wouldn't encourage anybody to want to be on town meeting.
Well, that
With the newer moderators, I think that's
better
subsided.
Yeah.
So it's easier being a town meeting member and easier participating than it had been in the past.
No, that is an accurate description. But again, 5 people picking people to vote on your budget and everything else, and not letting the full registered population voting, to me it doesn't sit right. That's just how I feel about it.
So what can we do? Let's get back to that
Well,
question
it's back
one last
to the
time.
education. It's back to the transparency. It's back to the communication. It's letting Burlington know how effective town meeting is. That we're Congress. We're our state legislature. We're right here, living next door to you, and you got to know us, and we got to know you. We've got to get our names out there so they know if there's a concern. That they can call us. I mean, how much publicity do we put out so that the people know how to reach us? Other than seeing our name on the ballot, it's very little.
I think that's interesting, though. If we ask that the supervisor of a committee put out a press release if they're coming close to finalizing a proposal before town, and if we even let BCAT TV know, now they can sift through all these memorandums and see which ones they feel would be of more interest. Another thing they could do is they could put, as long as this doesn't scare everybody away, they could put our pictures next to our names.
That's true. That's right.
Now they'll see us. Now they'll know us. I have, because of this TV program, been stopped in town and stores
Wonderful.
and asked questions.
That's good. What we haven't discussed that's a key part of town meeting is the moderator.
All right.
Okay?
We don't have a lot of time left, but yeah, let's get to that.
No,
What
no,
does
no,
the
no, no.
moderator do on town meeting?
That's right. What does the moderator do? They appoint a lot of people to a lot of these committees to which Larry is referring. And if you look at our annual meeting...
So the moderator has a few different roles.
Right. At our annual election in April, you'll see piles of the annual report stacked on the wall near the exit door. Pick one up, because that'll give you the history of what happened in the past year. It will list all your town meeting members, all committees, all the warrants. You really learn a lot. And you will see which committees the town moderator appoints people to. My shtick is, I think the town moderator should be a 3-year position. It's only a 1-year position, okay? The reason being that the town moderator will appoint town meeting members and others to committees that the terms are 3 years or longer than the town moderator's
Yeah.
term of 1 year. And the fact that I've served under 4 different town moderators in the past 6 years, there's been appointments to committees, but there's no continuity to the town moderator because even that person keeps changing.
Right.
Okay, so it's it loses something in that, in my estimation, in my opinion, on just a 1-year term. So I did submit an article to the warrant for September's last September's meeting, and it went through the bylaw committee, and it went through, and it never got on the town warrant. That's another thing.
Really?
Really.
That had so the selectmen would have to vote it
Yes.
on, and did they discuss it?
I have no idea.
But you got to
It wasn't-
follow up.
Yes, I do.
You have to flex your muscle a little bit.
That's not what I mean. I guess it has to work both ways too. That they should inform you if your proposed article was not accepted for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So maybe you could.
I think if
Yes.
you're going to push a new idea, I think you really need to sell it.
Yeah, you're right, because I mean, not everyone may agree with me, but I'm just looking at my experience as a town meeting member and the town moderator. So, should we tell the public what committees the town moderator appoints?
Feel free. I think that's a great idea.
Gotta open up my book. Hopefully, the page is still there, marked.
I know a couple of them off the top of my head. If you need an assist.
No, they're here. How is it broken out?
Can I name a couple of them while you're looking?
It's your show. You can do whatever you want.
I don't want to upstage you,
No,
but,
you're
And
not
also mention to
upstaging me.
contact the moderator if you're interested.
but you.
Go right ahead.
So, okay, we'll get to that in a second. But the various committees that the moderator appoints to are Ways and Means.
That's correct, yeah.
And what does Ways and Means do? Can you give us a little?
We deal with anything that's budget. If it's going to cost the town money, it needs to come before Ways and Means.
Okay.
And again, we're just an advisory group, but we have more time than just the one night that you're voting on things to dig into things, ask questions, find out if everything's legitimate, and make the recommendation back to the full Ways and Means. And they can either do an investigation more or decide to overrule you. So it's still a advisory committee for anything that's going to cost the town money.
Okay. Now, capital budget is another
Yes,
committee that we
correct.
both serve on, and the purpose of capital budget is any spending that the town is going to participate in as far as making improvements
Over $15,000.
via infrastructure. I think it's over $10,000.
No, 15.
It's 15. So anything over $15,000 comes in front of capital budget, and again, we make a we don't decide whether the project gets completed or not. We just decide whether we would recommend the project to town meeting, and the town meeting will vote it up or down. But both, I think, Ways and Means and capital budget, I guess if you were to boil it down to what we do, we kick the tires on spending and new spending
On
proposals.
any warrant articles, but you don't go into the town budget and department budgets.
Correct.
You
Oh,
just take the bigger
Remind me to
expenses.
come
That
back
sounds
to
like a
that.
great,
Okay.
great committee to be on.
It is. It is.
Yes, it is a great committee. Hard-working people on it.
No,
yeah.
I enjoy the time that we spend.
Okay, it's out on the side here, so you have to look. It's the committees are listed alphabetically, but who appoints them are on the
And
side.
Myrna is
but-
referring to the town's annual report.
Yes,
That when you go to vote, I believe they have copies of these at the town hall, but when you go and vote,
Absolutely.
they always give these
That's
away
right.
at the
Okay.
municipal election.
the moderator appoints the bylaw review committee, which has been reinvigorated and has
Yep.
really risen to the top about making sure that our bylaws are up to snuff.
Are
Okay.
being are compliant with the states
Yes.
and
The moderator appoints, we said capital budget. We have a lot of committees.
land use is a big one.
Facilities.
Okay.
Facilities, that was resurrected under one of our recent town moderators. The moderator appoints Human Services Committee,
Oh yeah, right.
okay? And the Land Use Committee, a very important.
Land use is a big
yes,
one. That's a
right.
big issue in
I
Burlington.
think
where-
we need to about wrap it up now.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of time.
Well, I just wanted to emphasize, I think the Rules Committee and Ways and Means and the Zoning Bylaw Study Committee.
So the moderator does a few different roles. What the
Yeah.
moderator does, the moderator's most basic role is they moderate the discussion that happens at town meeting, and they make
Correct.
sure everyone has a chance to speak. Nobody speaks on too many multiple occasions. You're allowed to speak. Essentially, you're allowed to speak once on every issue if you choose, or you can advance. You could vote to move the question and advance the debate to a vote.
Yes.
So if somebody wants to participate, tell them what they should do to contact the moderator to be on this committee. If they feel they have a desire or a talent
Yes,
to offer the town,
I,
who should they contact?
Our town moderator is Bill Byer.
Okay, so how do you contact Bill Byer?
I'm sure his, well, I shouldn't say that.
we shouldn't give out his phone number.
No, I
People
mean,
can find it
probably
easily.
in the phone book.
But you know,
Call
just
town hall.
you don't even have to call. It's on the website, burlington.org. Just like people can go on and see who their town meeting rep is, they can go on and see who
And
the
I think,
selectmen are.
I think it's actually moderator at burlington.org. I think is the email.
At burlington.org, you can find the whole structure of the whole hierarchy of who's involved.
But does it
in-
give telephone numbers, email addresses?
It will give telephone number and
phone
email.
numbers,
So
yeah.
if you want to get on one of these committees, it's entirely possible that I believe town meeting usually gets preference, but sometimes they reserve a few positions for people that aren't involved in town meeting.
But if you have a skill or knowledge to offer, please contact the town, contact the moderator, and say you have this skill, this knowledge, and would love to be of assistance. Well, Adam, let me ask you, what's up for the next shows?
So
for
we've got a
Burlington and
couple of
beyond?
shows. A week from tonight, we're going to have, I believe we have Town Treasurer Brian Curtin confirmed,
Right?
as well as the new director of the library, Michael Wick.
Okay, great.
And then coming up in December, on December 12th, we have the town moderator's wife, Kathy Byer, is going to join us. But we're going to take a little segue from politics that night. We're going to talk about the epidemic of autism and how it's affected our community and our people in our families, and we're going to educate our viewers a little bit more about that. It's an issue that's near and dear to me, and I know it's near and dear to Kathy Byer also. So I think we could learn some things and have a good discussion that night.
And a little bit how it's affected them personally as parents.
Yep, that's what we're hoping to do, and it's something that's affected me and my family too, so we'll have a good discussion on that. And if you have questions, because I know you don't know, you told me yourself that you don't know a lot about the issue, so
I
hopefully...
look forward to ask. I've started developing those questions.
Good. So we're
'Cause,
going to have a great conversation
I'd love to know
in a few
how
weeks.
it's affecting the families.
Very quickly, we want to end on a upbeat note. What are you thankful for this year, and what are you looking forward to on your Thanksgiving table?
Well, I'm thankful for this town. It's a great town, great people, especially the people, very generous, take care of each other. That's what I'm especially thankful for. Unfortunately, I can't tell you what's on for the plate.
You told me
I
that
don't
this
have
is a
everything
strange
either.
year for you.
Yes.
How
our
about
guest,
you, Myrna?
As I say to everyone, be thankful for what you have. Period.
That's good.
That is
That's
good.
how I feel.
What are you hoping that your son serves up? What's your favorite side on Thanksgiving Day?
All the sides I'll be bringing.
Oh, okay.
I am the schlepper.
So they're
All right.
so
I'm
they're
the
all good.
official bucket brigade leader. Okay,
Gotcha.
so.
Meantime, we thank you for everyone out there. Thank you for visiting. I hope you would join us again these next couple Tuesday nights.
We're thankful for you. Happy Thanksgiving. Good night.
Good night.